This is Fox 25 Sports.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. It is the 26th day of November, a long, long time from September 2nd, the first weekend of the college football season. And, of course, over the weekend, we had the traditional games. I mean, obviously, Oklahoma State playing for a spot in the Big 12, but, you know, Alabama, Auburn, the Apple Cup, Washington State, people like that. And pretty much all the games turned out to be pretty good games.
We had a lot of – you know what? We still didn't have any upsets. We had a lot of close calls, but it is amazing you get this late in the season, Myron, and we haven't had the chaos.
Nope. And that means a jumbled mess. Some would say atop the rankings. Of course, the AP ranking is out. This is not the one that will determine who goes where, but it's always interesting to see what the writers and broadcasters think. And I guess the biggest change is with Michigan take care of Ohio State. Washington now in that top 5, or top 4 rather, and Ohio State dropping to 6.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting since we had the 4-team playoff come about, was it 2014? We've never had 4 unbeaten teams make it. You got a chance. Now, Washington, probably the team, if you're saying, all right, who's likely to get beat, it's probably Washington. They're the underdog in the game to Oregon. But Georgia's favored, Michigan's favored against Iowa. Florida State is favored against Louisville, even though Florida State doesn't have their star quarterback, Jordan Travis. But if all those 4 teams win, you're going to have 4 undefeated teams in the playoff. That's not happened here in the last year of the 4-team playoff.
Maybe we have chaos in the championship game.
Could. Hey, I mean, at some point it has to happen, right?
It always happens. It had happened this year, but maybe it'll be in the championship game this coming weekend. Next page, we see Oklahoma's in that top 12 as they take a step up one spot. Texas and Alabama, they've been consistent the last 3-4 weeks in terms of 7 and 8 as far as the rankings go.
And Oklahoma being at number 12, that's significant because that puts them in position to possibly get into a New Year's Six bowl game. You know, they're going to be fighting against Missouri, you know, maybe an Ole Miss, but they're right in the hunt. So they'll have a chance to go to a pretty good bowl game. If they don't go to a New Year's Six bowl, it's probably going to be the Alamo Bowl, probably against Arizona. Again, none of that's official, but those are some of the projections.
Oklahoma State there at number 19. Of course, the biggest thing they're happy about is they are one half of the Big 12 championship as they beat BYU yesterday. In a typical game, at least for the last 3 weeks, they get down the first half. They come back the second half and win. Mike Gundy talked about what he talked to his team about after that win over the Cougars.
Just think where we were at the end of September. And the reason I told them that was because it's important as we develop and train young men, they understand there'll be things in life that don't work to their favor. And it's amazing what a group of young men and a team can accomplish if they're willing to ignore the outside circumstances, go to work and grind. Just put your head down and grind. Don't worry about anything else. And listen to your coaches because we got the best information for you. And if you're willing to do that, there's no telling what a group of young men can accomplish. And I think this is about as good an example as ever.
Boy, he's right. You think back to the first 3 games. They beat Central Arkansas. Didn't look great doing it. With Arizona State, I think Arizona State's very good. They won. And then, of course, South Alabama. They didn't just lose. They got beat down at home. And I don't think you could have gotten anybody to say, hey, that team's going to the Big 12 championship. And yesterday's game started kind of like the last few weeks. Those folks said, where was he throwing that football? You know, a pick 6. And BYU is off and running, and they get a big lead in the first half, and not much going on. Although she didn't move the football, they kicked field goals. But after that, they kind of calmed down, especially in the second half, and they took control of the game both offensively and defensively. And once again, Cowboys come back in the second half and win the game.
Yeah, it really is an amazing story, what they've done to get to where they are. I mean, you could go the next week after the South Alabama game, the next game was Iowa State. They lost that. I mean, you tell me after those 4 games that they're going to be in the Big 12 championship game? No way. They didn't just lose to South Alabama like you said. They got blown away. And that just set a whole negative narrative into the season at that point from us and the outsiders. As Mike Gundy said, hey, internally, they got back to, rolling up their sleeves and getting after it, and it worked as Ollie Gordon has become a superstar. His game yesterday, Myron, I mean, I know you kept seeing the stat about, hey, 5 touchdowns, Barry Sanders, the only other guy to do that. Obviously, he's not Barry Sanders, but you can't convince me that there are many guys, if any, better than him at that position in the entire country. I think he should win the Doak Walker Award. You're going to see some votes for Cody Schrader at Missouri, Blake Corum at Michigan, but it's going to be hard for Ollie Gordon to not win it, especially after the performance he gave yesterday.
Well, and really, when he started running the football the way he did, that's when Alan Bowman became a threat as a passer. Because, and I don't want to take anything away from Allen because he's performed well, but he's such a threat running the football that has opened up the passing game. And yesterday didn't look like much was going on. And then at the end of the game, he's got over 300 yards passing. Gordon's got 5 touchdowns in the game, and they complement each other. And that's a big reason why Oklahoma State's in the position where they are. And not that you want to get down like they've done the last 3 games or so, but you got to have confidence that when you're down by 18 points, you're not necessarily out of it because they've come back and find a way to win these ball games with the exception of Central Florida.
And that's the weird thing about the Central Florida game is they got down and then it just snowballed after that. And that happens from time to time. You've seen that over the years. But it's a resilient team, man. It really is. And I think, Alan Bowman was really bad, I thought, in the beginning of the game. He settled down. But once Ollie Gordon got going, I think that helped also settle down the defense, because the defense stepped up in the second half, only allowing a field goal, that crucial field goal to help tie the game.
Well, yeah, they're running the football over here. This is the beginning of the game. They're looking like against Oklahoma. They're finding running lanes, and they're picking up yards, scoring touchdowns. They're up, 24-6, 18-point lead at half. But they found a way the second half. Nick Martin and those guys, they started making plays, and they got like 2 first downs in the first 6 possessions of the second half and really took control of things. And Trey Rucker became the big-time playmaker. Had a fumble recovery in the first half that kind of slowed things, but later on you'll see he's got the game-stealing, takeaway you want to call it.
Oh, it was a great play. It really was.
He just takes the ball away from the tight end for BYU. So the defense also deserves a lot of credit because until that field goal late to put it to overtime, they shut down BYU the entire second half and allowed the offense to go on those, I think, a 64, an 86, and 80-yard drive to get back into the ball game and to take control until they went to overtime.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious to see how the defense responds against Texas. Texas lost Jonathan Brooks for the year, and they're banged up in some other areas at receiver and tight end. But again, they just dominated Texas Tech. And OSU's defense has been so sporadic, and you can't do that every single game and expect to come back and win. But they've been so resilient. And you mentioned Rucker right there. What a play that was, man. That is just instincts. And Mike Gundy said they work on that play a lot, obviously. A lot of teams do. But the defense is harder to peg to me than the offense. They have some playmakers, obviously, and they've been really good in spots, but they haven't been consistent. So that's where I would worry about playing Texas. But I do think Oklahoma State, even though Texas, their strength is against the run, I think Oklahoma State's still going to find some success this Saturday running the ball.
Well, one thing Oklahoma State's got, they have pretty much handled Texas the last decade or so. They won 2 in a row, 6 of the last 8, 9 of the last 13. That's in Stillwater and in Austin. So they've won, but this is a really talented Texas team. And I would say don't get down 24-6 or something like that because, yeah, they're missing Jonathan Brooks, but, Cedric Baxter, Blue, the other running back, is really good. They've got some playmakers. Xavier Worthy at receiver. Whittington seems like he's been there forever. I mean, they've got some playmakers. And, of course, Quinn Ewers at quarterback. So this will be a big-time test for Oklahoma State's defense to deal with them. And then, of course, on defense, they've got some players as well, especially in the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said is the key thing. If you get down big early in this game, you're going to get blown out. I mean, that's the bottom line. This is not Houston you're playing.
Nope.
This isn't BYU. This is a team that is hungry for a championship. I mean, Texas hasn't been there in a long time. OSU's won a championship more recently than Texas in the Big 12. They've been to the conference championship more recently than Texas. Like you said, Gundy has had their number as a program, beat them last year in Stillwater.
Yeah.
But Texas is hungry also. I mean, they're really hungry to win this championship, so you cannot get down early big.
Yeah, and they're thinking they've got a chance maybe getting that top 4 depending on what happens this championship weekend. So they're playing for something as well. So I would say do not fall down. Cowboys can bring home a Big 12 championship. That game is at 11 a.m. in Arlington, AT&T Stadium, Jerry World, whatever you want to call it. Cowboys and Longhorns for the Big 12 championship. And, of course, Texas and along with Oklahoma head to the SEC next year. And Oklahoma State will stake claim to they're the program to beat going forward.
I bet anything. I like, by the way, we have the WWE logo on the Big 12.
That's going to be on the field.
I know. They're going to give a belt out for the MVP of the game.
Oh, yeah.
Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, he is go Pokes all week this week, man. There is no doubt who the Big 12 office is rooting for.
Yeah, he's not hiding that at all. Hey, we'll hit a break. We'll talk some Oklahoma football, coaching change as well right after a short break.